What if I told you that how you feel about your money is actually 20 times more important for your mental health than the actual number that's in your bank account? Most of us think that we need more cash to feel motivated, but the science shows that financial shame triggers a survival mode in your brain that makes smart decisions almost impossible. I'm going to show you how to flip that switch today, moving from survival mode to a state of optimism that can actually help your savings grow on autopilot. In this video, I'm going to show you why your brain's bandwidth tax is the real reason why you feel stuck, how to shift from a state of financial shame into dispositional optimism, ooh, big phrase, to boost your savings by over $1,000, and a simple way to retrain your brain to see money as a tool for joy rather than a source of stress. So you know, like when you're driving on a humid night and the windshield starts to fog up from the inside, and you take your sleeve and you wipe a little bit so you can see, but within 30 seconds it fogs all up again. So you wipe it again and it fogs back up again. Eventually, you're just driving with one hand, frantically scrubbing the glass every few seconds just so you can see the taillights in front of you. The effort of trying to stay on the road is so paralyzing, which means that you're definitely not looking at your GPS for directions or even thinking about your destination. You're just like driving a quarter mile at a time. Financial stress is like that foggy windshield. It creates a scarcity mindset that severely limits your vision, that physically limits your field of vision. And it makes it impossible to plan for that dream vacation or even next month's bills. Today, we're going to turn on that defroster and clear the windshield so you can finally see the long-term path instead of just the bumper in front of you. So why does that windshield keep fogging back up? Why is it that every time you sit down to fix your money, you end up feeling more overwhelmed than when you started? It's not because you're lazy, and it's definitely not because you're bad with money. It's because of something called bandwidth tax. We're about to get a little sciencey, but bear with me. I promise it'll make sense and help you feel better about your money. All right, you ready? There's a fascinating body of research by Eldar Shafir and Sendil Mullainathan that explains that when we're stressed about a lack of resources, whether it's time or money, our brain literally loses the ability to think clearly. They found that being in financial scarcity actually drops your functional IQ by 13 points. Think about that for a second. That's the equivalent of you losing an entire night's sleep. When you're feeling down about your money, your brain's CEO, the prefrontal cortex, is essentially being hijacked. It's too busy trying to calculate if you have enough for groceries or how you're going to pay the unexpected vet bill to focus on long-term goals like investing or travel. That's why you might find yourself making impulsive treat purchases when you're at your most stressed. It's not so much about a lack of willpower. It's your brain trying to get a hit of dopamine because the CEO is offline and can't remind you of the bigger picture. And here's the most important part. You're not alone in this. 76% of people feel alone and isolated when they're down about money. But this is a near universal biological response. Your brain is just trying to protect you. But in the process, it's making it impossible for you to see the road ahead. So what do most of us do when we see that windshield fogging up? We try to discipline our way out of it. We download a new app. We make a massive spreadsheet. We tell ourselves, okay, from now on, no more fun. I'm going on a strict financial diet. But here's the problem with that. Your brain is already taxed and your CEO, bye-bye. And so adding a complicated, restrictive budget is like trying to install high-speed software when your computer's already crashing. It's just more of a load that your brain already can't take. In fact, research shows that only about 8% of people find traditional restrictive budgeting actually reduces their stress. Can you believe that? For the 92%, that might be you, it just creates more shame when they inevitably can't stick to those rigid rules. We've been taught to focus on the math, the spreadsheet, the line items. But when you're feeling down, math is not the problem. Your mood is. How you feel about money is actually 20 times more predictive of your overall mental health than the actual balance in your checking account. If the tool you're using to manage your money makes you feel like a failure every time you open it, it's not a tool. It's a weight. It's a burden. We need to stop trying to restrict our way to happiness and start focusing on a different metric entirely. Something called dispositional optimism. That's another big word, okay? Stay with me. Now, this sounds like a term that you hear in an advanced psychology class, but it's actually very simple. It's the general expectation that things will work out well. This is not toxic positivity, where you pretend everything is fine when it's not. It's instead the fundamental belief that you have the agency to change your situation. Personally, when things are hard, I remind myself that nothing lasts forever. Here's how this kind of mentality affects your bank account. A study from 2025 from the American Psychological Association, the APA, found that a single increase in a person's optimism level was correlated with $1,352 increase in their household savings. Now think about that. You didn't necessarily get a raise, you didn't win the lotto, and you didn't have a magic stock that went to the moon. You just changed your outlook, and your savings grew by over $1,300. Now, why does that happen? Because when you're optimistic, you believe that saving that $20 today actually matters. When you're down and you're pessimistic, $20 feels like a drop in the bucket of a sinking ship. So you spend it to feel better in the moment because you don't feel like it's going to have any benefit down the line. Optimism is a psychological fuel that brings your CEO brain back online. It clears the fog because it replaces the scarcity mindset with the possibility mindset. But I know what you're thinking. That sounds great. But how am I supposed to feel optimistic when I'm drowning? Well, it starts with a very specific, very physical shift in how you interact with your money. So the first step to changing the internal atmosphere in your car is to stop trying to clear the fog with your sleeve. We need to actually look at the road, but we have to do it in a way that doesn't trigger that bandwidth tax shutdown. When we feel down about our money, our instinct is to hide. We stop looking at the apps. We stop opening the mail. We just hope that the fog clears up on its own. But avoidance is what keeps the fog thick. So to bring your brain back online, you need to move from avoidance to awareness. The best way to do this is to put pen to paper. Even though we live in a world that has a bunch of apps and fancy dashboards, when you're in a scarcity mindset, these apps can actually feel very overwhelming. There's something innate that happens when you take a physical pen to a physical piece of paper. It forces your brain to slow down and process one thing at a time. So I want you to write down 3 numbers. What is in your bank account right now, what you owe this month, and the cost of one thing that you're excited to spend money on in the future, like a weekend trip or a nice dinner. By writing this down, you're not just doing math. You're signaling to your brain that you're in control. You are taking the steering wheel back. To help your brain stay in CEO mode, you'll need to create some strategic friction. In the words of James Clear, make the habits you're trying to get rid of harder. For example, if you have your credit card info saved on your phone or your favorite shopping sites, delete that information right now. Right now. When your information is saved, spending is an impulsive, foggy decision. But when you have to physically get up, find your wallet, type in those 16 digits, you're giving your brain a 30-second window to wake up and ask, is this thing I'm going to buy actually going to make me feel better tomorrow? Or am I just trying to outrun how I feel today? So once you've cleared up that initial fog, the next step is to change how you think about spending entirely. Usually when we're down about money, we think the answer is to stop spending money on everything that isn't a necessity. We cut out the lattes, the dinners with friends, and the little things that make life feel like life. But remember, we're not trying to restrict our way to happiness. We're trying to build optimism. So instead of a spending freeze, I want you to do a value audit. Take a look at your last 5 non-essential expenses. I'm talking about the Amazon orders, the takeout, the Target runs. For each one, don't ask if it was worth the money. Instead, ask yourself, am I actually glad I bought this? Or was I just stressed when I hit checkout? Think about it. Did that dinner with your best friend leave you feeling energized and connected? Did you wake up the next morning thinking, I'm so glad I did that? That's a value spend. That's an investment in your mental bandwidth. But did that $40 of random stuff from Target just provide you with a 5-minute distraction before the guilt rolled back in? Did you look at the bag the next day and kind of feel a little bit worse? That's a stress spend. When you start viewing your money as a way to protect your peace, rather than a list of things you're not allowed to do, your brain stops feeling attacked. It starts feeling in control. You're not missing out on that Target run. You're choosing the clarity that comes with a higher bank balance and a clearer head. This shift allows you to start spending joyfully on things that actually matter, like that travel fund we put on your list, without that nagging voice in the back of your head telling you that you messed up. So now that we looked at all the numbers, and we start identifying which spending actually brings you peace, it's time to start building the muscle that keeps you moving forward. Remember that $1,352 statistic? That extra saving doesn't appear because you're thinking happy thoughts. It appears because optimism changes your behavior. When you're feeling down, you're often playing a game of all or nothing. You think, if I can't save $500 this month, what's the point of saving anything? That's the scarcity mindset talking. It's a trap that keeps you stuck. To flip that switch, we're gonna start celebrating the wins. I want you to start with a small $5 win this week. Maybe it's choosing the generic brand at the grocery store, or finally canceling that $4.99 subscription that you haven't used in 6 months. When you do it, I don't want you to think, ugh, that's only $5. Instead, I want you to tell yourself, I just took $5 of my life back. Every time you choose your future self over a temporary stress purchase, you are proving to your brain that you are a person who is in control. You are building evidence that you can do this. This is how you move the narrative from I'm working to pay bills to I'm building my freedom roadmap. Because for the women I work with, professionals who are already working so hard and earning good money, the math is usually already there. What's missing is the feeling that you're capable of managing it. When you start stacking these small optimistic wins, you aren't just saving money. You're retraining your brain to see that travel, that part-time schedule, that early retirement isn't just a dream. It's an inevitable result of the control that you're taking today. At the end of the day, you're not inherently bad with money. You've just been operating with a hijacked brain and a lot of unnecessary shame. But once you realize that your bank balance is driven by your bandwidth and that optimism is a skill that you can actually practice, everything changes. You stop reacting to the stress and you start responding to your goals. You start to realize that you don't need a massive windfall like hitting the lotto or being born to riches or marrying rich to start feeling good. You just need to take your power back, even just $5 at a time. Now, once you have this clearer, optimistic view of your money, the next challenge is that you keep that momentum going by not letting it leak out on things that actually don't matter to you. If you're ready to take this even further and learn the practical steps to stop wasting your hard-earned cash on things that don't move the needle for your future, you need to watch this video right here on how to stop spending money on stupid stuff. You click there and I'll show you how to audit your habits so that every dollar you spend actually buys you more of the freedom you're looking for.